McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, National Review contributing editor, and a Fox News contributor as well. Andy, good to have you with us today. Your reaction to this verdict, and also can you explain for everybody at home why they decided not to mount a defense in this court case?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, Martha, I think the most important thing that David Spunt said at the end was, about the legal challenge that may come up on appeal. This is one of those rare cases where the defendant really didn't have any factual evidentiary defense, but he's got a legal defense. And the problem is for him, the judge basically said that he couldn't present the legal defense to the jury. What he is arguing is that Trump does retain, even as in his post-presidency, a quantum, which the courts haven't fixed, of executive privilege, and that he believed on the basis of Trump's assertion of executive privilege, relying, Bannon says, on his own counsel, that he did not have to comply with the subpoenas. And the judge in this case, Judge Carl Nichols, who, by the way, is a Trump appointee, found that that defense, first he decided that it was legally invalid. He decided it was factually wanting because Bannon couldn't show that Trump actually had asserted executive privilege on his behalf. But whether he's right or wrong on that, it left him with no factual defense in front of the jury. So as far as the jury was concerned, the case is he got 2 subpoenas, he knew they were subpoenas, and he intentionally didn't comply with them. And that's why it went so quickly. There really wasn't much more to talk about.
So we expect they'll appeal. His attorney has already said that. But give us a sense, Andy, of the history of this, because we remember when it was a Republican, majority in the House, there were efforts to bring Eric Holder to subpoena him in the gun case across the Mexican border, and somehow he got away with not showing up. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is that the Justice Department backed up the January 6th committee, and they didn't back up the Democratic control. I know this will be shocking, Martha. The Obama Justice Department didn't indict Holder for not complying with the Republican-controlled Congress's subpoena. Shocking as that is, but it's not just the Obama situation. We had the Fast and Furious scandal that you just referred to, which was where Holder was actually the first Attorney General, I think, ever to be held in contempt. There was the IRS scandal. There's been lots of scandals over the last 40 or 50 years, but this is a statute, this contempt of Congress, that the Justice Department virtually never enforces. As David Spunt said, I don't think there was a conviction on this since the Watergate era in '74, and I don't think they've indicted it for some 40 years. So, Bannon's going to have a claim that this was selective prosecution. And I also think that, this is a norm for all the talk about Trump breaking norms. I think the Democrats are going to come to regret some of these aggressive things that they've done, because in politics, as we all know, what goes around comes around.
Eventually, the shoe is on the other foot. I spoke with Trey Gowdy about this yesterday on the podcast, The Untold Story, and he said that he felt that Bannon didn't have a good argument because he talks all the time on his podcast. He's talked very openly about the conversations that he had with the president, things that the president said at that time. What do you make of that argument?
I think Trey is right in the sense that Bannon would have a much better argument about potential prejudice to the jury and all this publicity, and did it mean that he ended up not getting a fair trial? It was very odd to me that Judge Nichols decided to schedule this trial and forge ahead with it, even as the January 6th committee was going forward with its big primetime hearing and all that stuff last night. He would have been in much better shape, I think, Martha, making that argument if he didn't leave the courthouse at the end of a trial day and then go out to the courthouse steps and have a press conference during which he rips the January 6th committee. So I think, the appellate courts are going to say, if you want to complain about people not influencing or trying to influence the jury outside the 4 corners of the trial, then you can't influence the jury outside the 4 corners of the trial. So, he doesn't really have clean hands on that one.
Yeah, so the sentencing is going to be October 21st at 3 p.m. I know there's a lot of discussion that he probably, do you think he's going to actually get any jail time? And I wonder if he will will or won't make comments this afternoon with that hanging over his head at this point.
Yeah, well, I think he has to get 30 days under the statute. Now, there's 2 counts, and they have a minimum of 30 days, but I think they can run together. So I think he's got to get 30. But that may be why he didn't testify.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.